Yo guys, Guido coming at you with the Tactics Talk. Welcome back to basically the week of help. So I have received a whole bunch of requests for help and spent quite a considerable amount of time actually going through some of these. But it's been interesting because I've learned myself along the way that, and I knew this from my channel, that the scope of skill and experience and capability in the game is wide, but it's maybe wider than I thought, and especially at the new end when people are just trying to figure out the game, and especially, most especially, when people finally go, you know what, I'm going to ask somebody for a little help and see if I can't figure out how to play this game a little bit better. Have somebody look at my stuff, look at how I'm playing, how I'm set up, what I'm doing in the game. That scope is quite wide. I've had pretty good players send me stuff and say, hey, what do you think of that? And I've had brand new players, and I've had players that have obviously struggled for a little while. We have Charliehorse this time, and he's definitely struggling a little bit, but he's given me a note and said, hey, can you give me some help? And had a nice chat with him as well on email. So, former military, flew helicopters, great American. So, I'm glad to help Charliehorse. But as I was looking through his replays, I'm like, man, we're going to have to get pretty basic on this. And that is not a slam. It's not a stat shame. It's just when you assess and look at where you are, and I think Charliehorse would agree with this if he's done any instruction, which I assume he has based on his experience, especially in flying. You've got to assess where the student is and what they're doing at that time, and then you have got to tailor your instruction to that. That's just the best way to do it, and always has been. So I took a look at Charlie's three replays, three of the ones that he sent to me here, all in the T26E5, which is a really nice tank. And Charlie, the T26E5, and for the rest of you guys out there, that is a great premium tier 8 for people to learn in, because it is quite forgiving. It allows you to shoot a lot, which allows you to work on gunnery and positioning. Has a good turret, great turret. Has a lot of gun depression, a decent amount of mobility, so it's not quite heavy slow, but it's not quite medium fast. It means it can't quite get you into too much trouble really early, but it can get you to the fight and it can get you out. So it's a great little tank for people to learn in. So we're going to do three examples of Charliehorse's replays here. So let's start off with one of the most obvious things that sort of surprised me a little bit based on Charlie's experience numbers-wise. I don't know if you're manually resupplying your tanks. I hope you know this, but in the UI, please forgive me if I get too basic. I'm not trying to insult anyone's intelligence here. But there is a thing that you can mark to automatically resupply in the UI for your consumables, because you are running only a first aid kit. It is possible that this has to do with money and not being able to make enough credits to play the game. And when you have stats this low, when you're really trying to work yourself out of something like this, you can get into a bad feedback loop of losing money, especially at tier 8. So you need to try to get yourself towards that one-to-one damage ratio as much as possible. But with this tank, if you're running regular rounds, if you can get around 1,000 damage and consistently or more, you should be able to make some money. And that would allow you then to use consumables. My recommendation is an automatic fire extinguisher and a repair kit and a first aid kit. I use the large ones. You should get a lot of them for missions and things. You probably have some laying around. I know when I was credits poor, I would sell a lot of that stuff just so I could buy new tanks, and I would just deal with using the manual ones. And that's fine. Manual ones work if you can get there. The nice thing about the large kits, especially for, in this case, Charliehorse is a little bit older gamer. The nice thing about the large kits is you just press one button and they happen, and they fix everything. Now, it does cost you 20,000 credits a whack, but if you are able to make some decent credits, run personal reserves, get your tier 8s out, your tier 8 premiums, and do about 1,000 damage or more a game, ideally up to your hit points. In this case, that would be 1,500 average or so, that you really should be fine running the large kits, but especially if you have a large stockpile of free ones. All right, that's a long diatribe, but very, very definitely, Charlie, you've got to be using all three of those slots. That it is hampering your performance. You might not think it does. You might say, well, I'm saving money, Guido, but you're not. Actually, in the long run, you're hurting your performance. You're hurting your ability to do more damage, which makes more credits, which makes more experience, which gets your crews better, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Second thing, I don't know what your equipment is. My concern here is that you don't have any necessarily, because you're being, I'm not sure what's going on with the consumables. So just take a look at that. You know, if you're running equipment, that's great. My recommendation here would be a rammer. It would be a vert stab, and you can go optics, but for you, I would go with vents, because that's going to improve everything around the circle there. All right. So we're going to go ahead and load in here to Mountain Pass, and you'll have to give me some feedback on all of that, because I'm not exactly sure what's going on with all that. All right. We're going to see this multiple times this week from some of the newer players and people who are learning. This turret should be pointed that way. Why? Because that's the direction the threat's coming from. Reach back to your Army days, as far as in aviation days, right? Head on a swivel, looking in every direction. Go ahead and put your turret towards the threat, because if you get seen, at least that armor profile of the turret is looking forward. Yes, you have a bit of a billboard side, but you are a little bit lower right here. They actually changed that on this map a few iterations ago, so it's a little bit safer crossing here. Bummer is there's 2 artillery and some big TDs, but you must have your turret turned that way so that you can bounce any shots, i.e., or also, not i.e., but also if you see somebody, unlikely because you don't have anybody forward, but if for some reason you did, maybe you had a scout go up there to the corner, you can actually take a snap on the way, okay? Break. Remember, if you take a snap, your camo lowers, you might get spotted because you shot. I've actually made that mistake on this one quite a few. I think your best bet in a heavy right here is have your turret turned this way. Unless there's a really juicy target, keep on choking, because where you want to get to is up here, and cover up with this terrain right here, so you can then keep on trucking to where I think you're going, which is down here in the south. All right, so approaches, what I'm doing with, there you go, finally your turret goes. You get a little hung up with the T-43, which is a bummer. I don't know if that costs you this artillery hit. You do avoid at least one shot, and you take a hit from your friend, the GW, who manages to drop 233 RNG biscuits on you before you can even get to position. And that is just something you're going to have to deal with in the game. It's unfortunate that it exists. It's unfortunate that maps like this exist where you can't even get to the fight without losing hit points to some guy in the red line. But that's another story, and it is none of my business. Anyway, back to Charliehorse and what he is doing. He's going to move up forward. I like this position, man. In general, what I'm seeing you do is go to the right positions. You do mention it in your note to me. The question then becomes, how do I fight this position? Now, I will say I don't particularly like this micro position, excuse me, within the position. Doing a lot of videos today. Why don't I like this? I want you to think about it. Why is this not a great spot on this map? Exactly. So I'm talking to people that aren't even here. The 2 Artie. They're going to have a heyday if they're both shooting, especially at 53, 55. And I don't think he sees you or pays attention to you for some reason, because you only get hit by the GW. But if both those guys start dropping biscuits on you right here, you're just exposed. See where that AE phase 1 is? I like that spot much more. Okay, the standard B is a little bit protected hanging out there. But good aggressive position. I do take this position on occasion. And the nice thing is that your tank is built kind of for this position. Nice turret, good gun depression. That little ridge right there in front of you is a really great place to fight if they're going to afford you shots. And let's see how that goes down. One thing Charliehorse mentioned is he doesn't do the 1v1s very good. All right, so sort of. You almost got it right. You're too far forward. You've exposed a little bit too much of yourself right there. If you look at this, you didn't actually have to come that close. As a matter of fact, if you shift your hole this way a little bit and go straight into that hill, you're still going to have the gun depression, and this corner right here of your tank is not going to be as exposed. So instead of coming out this way, come up this way a little bit. You may have to shift a little bit as he tucks into this position, but right now, and I've seen this on multiple occasions with the new guys and people asking for help, is they continue to come out exposing the side of their tanks. All right, so endeavor, strive, try to get the front part of the hole pointed towards the enemy as much as possible. You do have to be careful. You can't drive too much up on this before you lose gun depression to shoot this guy. But this dude's getting super aggressive, and you basically own him. He doesn't have a position like yours right here. And as a matter of fact, if he doesn't cover up on this rock, he's going to get shot in the side by the AE. I would be salivating right now. This is an absolute gold mine of heat HP. So let's see what happens here. All right, that's just a gunnery thing. And you mentioned you were a little bit older. I don't know what your equipment is. I don't know what. It looks like you're getting 29 FPS, so maybe it's a FPS thing to some extent. I think those two numbers up there means mine's at 142 and yours originally was at 29. I believe. But whatever the issue is there, you do need to be a little bit more careful on your shots. And I think if you'd just aimed center of mass on his hull, slightly low to get to his lower plate, you'd have had no problem. Also, consider just dabbing 2 here against a decently armored T-26. You're going to be getting the damage, and you're going to probably pen his upper plate. But if you're going to stick with the regular AP, because you're a little bit credit conscious at the point, and yes, you can pin the front of T-26E5 with regular APCR. Actually, both are APCR, the regular round and the special round. Just make sure you're aiming a little bit better. So you kind of took a shot. He did a nice job of a little wiggle at the end, and I think you actually shot into the side of his angled tank. So that's fine. We flubbed it 1 shot. Let's see how we handle the rest of it. So we back out, and we think about it. And just as we're reloading, and I thought you were going to come right there. This is really important. Provided everything, all the other situations around you allow you to do this, the faster you get out and fire, the faster you get out and fire again. And as soon as you are green, you should be firing, if you can. Obviously, don't come around this corner if there's 4 tanks waiting for you there, just because you reloaded. That's not a good reason necessarily. But this guy appears to be alone and unafraid right now. I would figure, based on the number of tanks that are still in the game, that maybe someone else is now going to start backing him up. So I will be cognizant, I'm using the wrong thing, I will be cognizant of guys coming around that corner. You know, that's that little hill right there, and there is a little alley to come through. But at the same time, this dude is overexposed, and he's my HP pinata, so I want to be shooting him as much as possible. And I would have timed that such that I just come right over that ridge, my turret comes right over that ridge, right at reload, and boom, I pop a shot into him. So it just takes a while for you to do this, and we're kind of, okay, what's going on? No, I can't. All right, let's see. He fired. Perfect. That means he's not going to shoot me for another few seconds. Just fine-tune that aim right there on his lower hole and let him have one. Beautiful. Exactly. Oh, hey, look. What's happened? Mr. IS has made his appearance. All right, the IS is going to have a really hard time pinning your turret. He's hanging out back here. Do I have a highlight on him? Yes, I do. So he's trying to poke around that rock. All right, he's going to try to expose as little of himself as possible, but it looks like I definitely have shots. When I come around to shoot this dude, if I focus on this guy, I'm exposing myself to the IS too much. If the IS wants to let me have shots, then take those shots. And then I am completely protecting myself from the T-26E5. He's no factor. He's not shooting at me. Somebody else has presented me a target. Let's work on that guy. And oh, we come around and we're looking at, oh, then we look at the ground, and then we're like, okay, we miss it, and we come around here. All right, so you completely overexposed to both of these guys when all you needed to come out was just enough out of here to find that IS. And that kind of looked like a shift zoom. I'm not really sure. It's hard for me to tell with the way yours is going, whether it's like the modded shift zoom where you only get so much, you can actually set it, or if you're actually using a scroll wheel. Here's one thing, and I haven't talked about this much and didn't think about it until I was doing this review. I use the scroll wheel with the clicks. You always can hear that going on. That allows me to kind of have control over what the scroll is, as opposed to the smooth scroll, which can get out of hand a little bit. All right, so I just throw that little thing out there. I'm not sure. You have to let me know what you're using for zoom, whether it's shift or scroll or a combination. So then we come back and we're like, all right, what's happening here? See how the IS kind of backed out, and now it looks like he's coming back, and he's still lit, and that's fantastic. Now he's stunned. That's even better. Now he has a terrible gun dispersion. Don't expose yourself to the T-26E5. See if you can get a shot on the IS. But, oh, we come after this guy, and all of a sudden this IS is like, oh, how's your father? I'd shoot that guy right there in that sprocket, man. And if you could track him, you own him, unless he has a repair kit. If he has a repair kit, you force him to burn it. And the next time he does it, you track him, and he can't fix it. See how that works? But right now, you're exposing yourself to 2 guys to get a shot on 1 guy. You got away with it. They didn't hit you. All right, there's Artie. Fix it. Right now, I'd go ahead and push 5. Get rid of that stun immediately, and go right back after the T-26E5. But we sort of back out. The IS has moved away. No factor. Oh, we go after the turret. I don't know why. Didn't need to go after the turret. Not at all. Now the IS-2 is going to push him. This gives you an opportunity. Get in there. 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 Not bad on the timing. Not bad on the timing. But unfortunately, as you went in, somebody else has entered the building. and it's a Batchat 25 TAP. This is a multi-bogey environment. The last thing you want to do is extend out to get a shot on this guy and then let this dude clip you out. And when I saw this happening, I'm like, surely we're not going to get clipped out. Well, one of the reasons we're going to get clipped out is we don't have a repair kit. So watch what happens. This just hurts my soul. Ow. And he went for the track, and he got it. And now he's got 5 more. I believe that thing's a 6 shell. It's at least 5. It might be 6. Doesn't matter because he's got more than enough to kill me, and now I'm tracked. Did he get the outside track, or did we fix it? What am I? Oh, it's just damage. Sorry, not yet tracked. But we're going to stand in. Oh, now we're tracked. The GW got a hold of us. Blapped us. That guy's blapping us. Now we're exposed, no kidding, to this guy as well, and it's all over but the shouting. Not a thing we can do. And down we go. That was an entirely manageable situation right there. If you were just a little bit more careful when you came out and were able to fight a little bit more of the multi-bogey environment and popping out that far against that Batchat. And that's just something you have to work on. This one's actually pretty easy, relatively, all right, because it is channelized, however you want to say it, right in front of you. It's not a multi-bogey environment of multiple directions necessarily, but those 2 angles are just enough to make it that much more difficult, such that if you do come out too much, now you got 2 guys able to get all kinds of shots there. So I would have been a lot more cognizant of what was going on in that corner right there while trying to get shots on this guy as well. All right, let's move on to the next one. Here's Charlie's second example. And the first one, I agreed with his positioning. I thought it was a great spot to go to. I didn't quite like the micro positioning, but based on the tank he had, it was actually workable. And as long as he wasn't getting focused by Artie, he had definitely some opportunity there to crank out at least 1,000 damage, maybe 1,500, depending on how that went. I don't know how the rest of the game went because he didn't finish the whole thing. So unknown if his team ended up winning, but there was definitely an opportunity for him to sit there, hold down, and have a field day with that turret, provided Artie didn't take him out. This time we are in Muravanka, spawned into the south side on a standard battle, and we go over to the west. And I do not like the west on this map. It becomes a stalemate. It's hard to push into TDs. It doesn't take many enemy tanks to stopper any kind of push right there. Pushing across all of this dead space right here in order to get near their cap is usually a death sentence. If they even have a couple heavies, like they have the Scorpion, that's not a heavy, but I think it's in a mill right there. That can be an issue, mill 1951. And then the campers back here, and it's easy for the guys in the northeast to flex back. It's just bad. What you will notice the enemy team is doing is they've invested most of their tanks over on the east side, and that is absolutely the critical terrain on this map. There are a few maps in this game that are like this. As a general rule, you don't want to ignore one flank. If Charlie's team only sent 2 tanks, say, over to the west side, that could be a problem if the enemy team figured it out fast enough and folded around, and then they got these guys down here in the southeast into a crossfire. So noted. Nobody, in general, in pubs, leaving one flank open is a bad idea, unless you have a super aggressive wolf pack going through, which you usually don't. However, when I look at a map like this or a game like this, and I assess what's going on, a same tier battle, and I have a great hold down tank with good mobility, dudes, I am very definitely going over to the east side. This tank will absolutely rule over here because there's a lot of undulating terrain and hold down capability over there. All we're going to do over here is get stagnated. And since we didn't send enough power over to the east side, they're going to get rolled up. Now let's see how Charlie handles that. And like I said, this is going to just get kind of stalemated. The Renegade says, I took the middle. And then someone says, what was the cost? And he said, everything. That's the problem. Okay, dude, good job. You got the middle. You lost half your hit points. There's still Invisa TDs in the back. Not to mention there's also an M4043 just to add insult to injury. And guess what? All of our TDs are sitting back here as well. The problem is they didn't send anybody to push. So what is happening over here is Charlie's team is pushing into their TDs with 3 heavies, 2 right now. The TDs back here don't have anybody to shoot at, and the east side is getting rolled up. mean, the writing is absolutely on the wall on this game. So, Charlie, what I'm saying is I try to take myself to the most important terrain. To the most important terrain. You do have to take consideration map mode, enemy situation and lineup, the order of battle, if you will. There's a lot of other things to look at, but as a general rule, I'm taking nearly any tank I have to what I think is the critical terrain on the map. And this one is about as analog as it gets. It is about as analog as you get. You play the odds, and the east side is where it's at on this map. Okay, there's probably some situations where you simply don't have the tank to go over the east side. Noted, this was not one of them. You absolutely should have been over there. Now, you're looking at and go, well, we'd have lost if we'd have gone over there. Not necessarily. You're in there with your heavy tank blapping away. Let's see how we go from there after all that babbling. All right, this is pretty typical of losing the east side. Now we're all stacked up right here, and we're stuck in the middle, and we can't go forward, and we can't go into the city, except that is what Charlie does. So reacting to bad situations or any situation in the game, the approach and how you do it is important. And I will tell you, Charlie, you are not going to be able to manage going into the town with this situation. Just at 1G, 0 airspeed, let's take a look at this and go, all right, where am I going? Well, I'm going to go into the town, and then I'm going to afford all these guys who are in sniper bushes and behind buildings every angle possible to shoot me. Is there a building in here that's going to keep you safe from every one of these angles? I have the answer. No. Maybe if you tucked up against that church up there and just hid, you might be able to avoid shots from every angle. You're certainly not going to avoid being spotted. You have this big hill behind you, man. Think about terrain that's defensible. I know you know all kinds of stuff about that. Let me get this stupid map, cursor working. There's all kinds of terrain here that is defensible. What I'd have done is simply turned around and gone around this way and then come up on top of this right here and seen what I could do. Okay, look at where your WZ-120 and your Scorpion is. They've got that southern flank covered for the moment. What you need to do is find out if you can see any of the guys down in here without doing it by recon by fire, by driving right down the middle. So come up over top. There's some bushes up above here. In fact, there's one right there that you can use. There's one here, not great one because it's too far on the edge. But these over here are really nice. They've also got, see that little hill there? You've got great gun depression. You can kind of peek up, look to the bush. Hey, can I see any guys down here to shoot? But just driving out into the middle, man, this is, I think, other than driving straight across into the forest, this is probably about the worst decision you could have made right here. I suppose I will say the good news is you're going towards the threat, so fantastic. All right, you didn't just drive all the way into a corner, but I think you'd have found yourself in much better position up there. See that bush? See that bush? Put them in fantastic. Also, you've got the look down on those guys because they are behind some kind of undulating terrain down there. You'd had all kinds of shots on these guys by being up there behind you. But as it is, we're kind of stuck in the building. And you might have been thinking, well, I'll get in these buildings and I'll use it as cover. Not a bad shot here. A little bit more lead fire, I think, would have been helpful. Okay, we back out. We're like, okay, there we go. He's looking at us. Clearly, he is aware of us now. There's that situation where we don't have a repair kit and we can't fix our trek. Interestingly, on this battle, this is why I'm thinking maybe it's a little bit of a manual system you use to put stuff back on. But for some reason, you have a repair kit and a fire extinguisher this time. But no repair kit. Sorry, a first aid kit and a fire extinguisher this time. So we're, oh geez, and then we get seen again, and this is bad juju right here. Your team's actually not in bad shape. All right, this is recoverable. For a wonder, your pushers actually were able to sweep these guys up. It would be really nice if they just all student body right and came down south and just left their cap alone, because clearly there's going to be some guys back here trying to defend the cap. The bulk of what you need to deal with on the enemy team is right in front of you here in the town. So if they all folded back over, you might have actually put all your power in one place. The problem is you're spread all over the map, so we'll see how that goes. There goes the 6x6, so let's see if we can get a shot on him. Just, ooh, almost, yep, whoa, there he goes. Wait for him and shoot him when he comes around there. Nope, didn't need it. Uh-oh, Type 59 sees me. There he is. Gonna run for some cover. There's all kinds of guys behind me. There we go, 59 dies. There was no real reason to come out from behind that building, to be quite honest. Especially when there were two more guys right here kind of aware of you and looking at you. This is that multi-bogey environment thing I talked about. I would have just stopped behind this building for a potato If the 59s kept coming, I'd have a shot. If he died like he did, great, I'm covered up. And then I can think about how am I going to start taking on these guys without overexposing myself. And it looks like you thought about it and backed up, and then you just walked right out into it and said, all right, shoot me in the side. Unfortunately, that bounced. We don't have a repair kit, so we can't move. Those guys start moving, and we back out. Oh, geez, now we got a stirve, and he's camoed, and he's up in there. So what I would do with that is I'd look at what's the angle, and then I'd put that building right there between me and him. I just accept that I have to duke it out with the heavies. At least I'm not being shot in the back by a stirve. You might have been thinking about that right there. But then we keep trucking, right? The problem with that is we just uncovered again on the angle. So I would have just hid myself behind this building as best I could and shoot these guys because they're kind of busy taking on the Renegade and the Scorpion. So they're not focusing you right there. One of them just died, actually. So I could have hung out right here more than likely and been safe from the stirve. We get lit on fire. Looks like you used your kit or your fire extinguisher, and we just keep, oh, we get a nice little shot in there and die to the AMX-65T. That was one of the things we didn't know about. So potentially a challenge with two different angles, trying to keep guys from shooting us. But just blasting across there and affording them all kinds of shots without trying to cover. Got you dead. Got you deed. And we ended up with 732. So I think you're on the cusp, man, of hitting that 1,000 to 1,500 regularly kind of idea. It's just some of the decision making, it needs to be worked on a little bit. Try to think about better places to fight. You're in the general right positions, but you're making decisions going to, as far as micro positions on the last one I talked about. When I say micro position, I mean the position was the south. There's several places to fight down there. That's the micro positioning decision. Where do I go to fight from on that flank? Micro positioning is the way I'm using that term. So a little bit of work on decision making there, and then on something like this, there just really was no reason to go rage into the middle. The idea of I need to react was absolutely 100% correct. You were going in the right direction. You just exposed yourself in the middle of the map for no reason when there was all kinds of fantastic terrain to just have a field day up here with a tank that has that kind of gun depression. All right. Using the Scorpion G and your other guys as forward spotters to help you out, and we could have done some good work. I think you might actually end up winning this based on what your team's doing, even though you're spread out all over the place. All right, let's go to the third example. All right, we got Charlie here, and he's again in an all tier 8 on Malinovka. Spawned into the west side, and he's headed up the hill, and I absolutely love this. I think this is a great idea. This is a great tank for it. Unfortunately, his team doesn't do a lot of help. What's interesting about this battle is there's a lot of TDs, and you're going to see that a lot more in the near future. We're seeing it a lot right now. It's just the meta of the game, people hiding in bushes and TDs. You can see his entire TD force is sitting down at the cap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. All right. There's 2 Scorpion Gs having a picnic in one bush. There's 2 WZ-120s having a picnic on the end. 2 Su-130 PMs who haven't even left cap. I mean, it's just fantastic. But we've got Charliehorse headed up the hill. I like this. This is a pretty good tank for it. This side's a little harder to deal with. The WZ's pushing up. But we do have some guys following up and helping us out. So I think this is good. I'm also going to like where you go. We're going to talk a little bit about fighting it. I don't know if you were going to survive this even if you had good support, but let's just talk about it. Because an epic stand up here at this windmill, I have turned many battles by doing exactly what you're doing and just being hard to kill. So let's talk about that. Again, multi-bogey environment in an up-close brawl and being hard to kill. What are the skills required for that? What are the things to think about? How do I avoid getting killed for as long as possible? The WZ is not avoiding being killed for as long as possible. I do like the spirit. He has taken a chunk out of the FV. Okay, so we got beat up here by the 4202. That's not a surprise. He's a decently fast medium. The WZ has given us some SA. I have a WZ-111 coming. I would expect at least 1 or 2 more of their heavies. Maybe the Progetto. What of the TDs would come up here? I don't know. The WZs might show up later. I would not expect the Sioux and the Scorpion, but it is possible, and they do have an artillery. So there's a lot going on here. I have a little advantage built with my team. The Scorpion G on the enemy is dead. The Bulldog is dead. That's pretty good. But I don't have a whole lot going. Look at this. This is just, I have to mention this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tanks have basically not left cap. The LT is actually in a good spotting bush, and had he been getting lights, and that's probably where that Scorpion and Bulldog went, all these guns took him out. But holy crap. All right. So let's address here a little bit the age thing that you talked about. And the only reason I want to bring this up is I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but this is a game where it matters less than most. You can, in heavies, to a large extent in TDs, play a more careful game, and even if your hand-eye coordination and dexterity is a little less than it used to be, then you can still excel in this game. You really can. You can get to that 50% win rate. Okay, I promise you, Charliehorse, we can get you to a 50% win rate and probably close to a 1-to-1 damage and kill rate. Just based on what I'm seeing and what we talked about, your awareness of what you're trying to do is there. Your acceptance of what you're doing is not quite working is 100% required. I know you know that as an aviator. So we can absolutely get you there. The question just becomes, all right, what are the things, the specific things we have to work on? And I've given you some of those to begin with. But let's talk about this kind of brawling fight right here and things to think about. This is not easy. There's going to be 3 or 4 guys here. And you have chosen to be pretty super aggressive, and your guys are lagging a little bit. So right now, you need to preserve hit points and keep these guys busy enough that these goofballs back here can move up without giving away too many or any, if possible, hit points. So let's see how that goes. We come in. All right, let's assess what we got. We've got a 4202 who has pretty good pen. He is hurt a little bit. He does have a very fast reload, maybe slightly faster than ours, but not much, so we're pretty close. We have a WZ-111 who's got a really bad lower plate, pretty strong upper plate, hits hard, but will have trouble unless he's firing heat, penning me. My tracks will eat his heat, so that's good news, because that's what I believe the WZ has, heat, or is it APCR? We'll find out, I think, when we get shot at. I don't remember. But in any event, he has low pen unless he presses number 2. So right off the bat, we need to be a little bit worried about taking that 390 alpha from that guy and avoid that if at all possible. We want to avoid the 320, I think, alpha of the Renegade. That is a very good tank, very accurate, good penetration, decent penetration. But this is an all-terrate battle, so really none of us are going to have too much trouble penetrating unless we do some good side scraping and armor management. So that's what we see right now. So we come in here and we side scrape out, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad decision, but I think I would have pressed 2. I'm up here alone. I'm fighting a lot of beef. I don't have a lot of help. We need to make our shots count. I think I would have gone with 2. You can do all right with firing special rounds if you can pen and get the damage. Okay. Right now, I think in order to survive and start mauling these guys a little bit, we definitely need that little extra number 2 advantage. Just think about that. You're carrying a lot of rounds, so I think you were probably ready to do that if you needed to. Let's watch this side scrape. Okay. 2 things are happening here at once. Number 1 is he has bounced, which would afford you the ability to back out even more and get up underneath into his weak spot, as opposed to shoot him in the track. The other thing that's happening is, if you noticed, the marker for the Renegade was coming from right to left. He was charging hard to get a shot on you. Okay? That guy's shot, ideally what would happen here, that guy's shot and bounce, you see the Renegade coming, you move forward and tuck up into this building, and you shoot this guy while side scraping at an angle in the front sprocket. And try to get a bit of damage on the Renegade and ignore the WZ-111, because if you back out right now and try to fight the WZ-11, you might take a hit. So let's see what happens here. Ooh, overextend. See, as you go in, you're like, ooh, I'm going to cover up right here. I need to get over to this, whatever this thing. What is this? Windmill. But I shift my hole a little to the right, and now I give him way too much angle, and I pay for it. Boom. If I'd have simply just driven forward and maybe even shift a little bit this way, a little bit to the left in this case, I would have given that Renegade a little harder angle and potentially bounced. Okay, so whatever. He comes in there, he's shot. That means he's on a reload. The WZ has quite a long reload. I'm not reloaded. The WZ is stunned. I have an opportunity to shoot the WZ right now. So you should have already been backing out, right? Renegade just fired. I know he's got about 8-9 seconds. WZ fired about the same time I did. I wasn't quite reloaded when I started talking about this. I wasn't. He's also stunned, which is going to increase his reload. I should have simply, once the Renegade hit me, fine, whatever, dude. Back out, put a shot right into the lower plate of the WZ, tuck back in. But as it is, we wait too long. We're goofing around. And now we're thinking, okay, I need to figure out how to do this. And he's going to be about reloaded. Ooh. And there he is reloaded. Fantastic. The WZ bounced again. But, uh-oh. Another player has entered the fight. There's a what is it? VK4502. Fortunately, we bounced it. And the WZ has heat, by the way. So there you go. It is heat. I think it's the 112, maybe, that has AP share. Anyway, we got hit in the back by the 4502. That lets me know that now I have 4 guys. Holy crap. That's not good. And anyway I back out, probably going to get someone with a shot on me. Finally, my buddies are kind of coming up here. Right now, I need to go super defensive. Super defensive. I need them to make a mistake on me. Also note that the 4502 is down to about a 1-shot. Not to you, 2-shot to you, because unfortunately you're rolling with a whole 240 alpha. But with a little help right there, you might be able to take him down. Oh, by the way, the other thing is Artie, right? The 4043 is looking at this fight more than likely. You see that he shot the WZ. Let's see if we can't tuck up here, defend a little bit, keep ourselves safe, and maybe the Artie can deal with the 4202 and take one of the guns out of the game. The last thing I want to be is over-aggressive here and get taken out. So we come in here and we kind of fail to see that the Renegade's about to get that same angle. So as you see him going for that shot, look at his turret pointed right at you. Shift your front of your hole to the left and just give him more angle to deal with. You don't want to give him too much because if the 4502 comes forward, then I might get shot in this back edge. But this is why this multi-bogey environment is so hard. You're trying to manage your angles and your exposure from 2 different sides, and you don't have a whole lot of help right now. But right now, the immediate problem is not being shot by this stinking Renegade who's about to shoot you in an over-angled spot. Boom. And you did it late, right? So you saw it, but you saw it late. All right, so what do I do now? Well, I don't think I do this. The WZ is well angled. That's going to be hard to get in there on this guy. The Renegade's starting to reload, and I know that 4502 is over here somewhere, so as I back out, I'm giving him another shot. All right, bummer. I just got shot by the 4502. I could have known that. Now I'm having a hard time exposing myself to get a shot, and all of a sudden the Renegade is now interested in coming in because he's about reloaded. So we're like, okay, I'm going to aim. Oh, geez. Oh, geez. And I just really want to get that shot. Very similar to the one before. As you backed out to get the shot on the WZ, you saw that icon of the Renegade coming from right to left, charging in hard. You had to know he was going to want to do that because that's what he's been doing. People are going to continue to do what they're doing when it's working. So pushing back out here and trying to get that aggressive shot was exactly the wrong thing to do. So definitely more defensive up in here. What you really wanted to do here was try to get the Renegade to kind of pop out and try to take shots on these guys. And then when he shoots, try to pop out and take a shot on him. The problem is you also have the WZ locking you down. So really, your best bet right now was a very defensive game up here. So I like the aggression. You have the idea of the side scraping. It's very difficult to fight a multi-bogey environment like that, but I think there were a couple of instances where you definitely could have given yourself a much better chance to survive, and that last back out, just really kind of letting them all shoot you, was the last thing you really wanted to do there. All right, man, that was a lot. I'll let you digest all of that. We'll continue with this, in the next few weeks if you have more replays that you want me to take a look at after you kind of work on these. I like that you're using the T26E5. I think you've got the general gist of what you're trying to do. It's just that those fine-tuning of fighting multi-bogey environments, a little bit of the positioning of your tank and how you're actually going about using your side scraping and hold down. You mentioned gunnery. That's something you're going to need to work on as far as taking those nice shots. Those shots into the tracks, I didn't really mention it, but you took a couple, and let's get all this smoke away. Those shots into those tracks are not very useful, especially on this tank. Some tanks have a hole right behind the tracks where you can actually get into the hit point box, but you were really trying to get into the lower plate of the WZ. So it was really just a wasted shot unless what you were trying to do is track them, which is great, except that you didn't really have a lot of help back there to take advantage of it. All right, man, like I said, that's a lot. Go ahead and take a look at all that. Let me know what you think of it. Everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Again, this is the week O help. We're going to have a lot of help videos out this week. That's all I've got. I appreciate the subscriptions. I appreciate the support of the channel. If you're looking for ways to do that, down in the description, you can see all kinds of fun ways. That's all I've got, and we will see you.